After the original film, Godzilla returned pretty quickly in 1955. We'd see him fight another monster for the first time and destroy his second major Japanese city. Following up a science fiction masterpiece was always going to be challenging, so let's see how they did as we discuss Godzilla Raids Again. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast, and we are returning to the Godzilla franchise for the second of his tenured career in movies, and that is Godzilla Raids Again from 1955, although also apparently known as Gigantus the Fire Monster from somewhere.
That's America. That's what America did. Yeah.
Okay, that's
America,
wild.
apparently we got the rights to it, and they said nobody knows what a Godzilla is. So they instead changed the story to be about two volcano monsters that come out and fight each other, Anguirus and Gigantus.
That was a bold move.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bold move.
Didn't work out.
Apparently not. Which is especially weird since there was already like an American edit of Godzilla, which had American actors put into some scenes. And then, you know, a few years later, admittedly in the early 60s, they come crawling, like Universal, like, hey, do you want to put King Kong versus Godzilla, do a crossover? And I feel like by that point, surely they're admitting, oh, people at least have an idea of what Godzilla is, even in the West.
Yeah, you'd think. I would assume that was also, 5-6 years later, so maybe this was just a bit too quick a turnaround there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. See, if it had been like the same year, I would have maybe understood, because I don't think the first Godzilla had been like, repackaged yet for the American audience. But if it was 1959, a few years later, then like, yeah, by that point, I'm sure it was. So weird. But yes, so this is the second Godzilla movie. We will start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers, and of course, if you want to support us, you can do that via subscribing, liking, all that good stuff, and supporting us financially over at Patreon or via YouTube membership. Get some bonuses, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yes, we started working through the original Godzilla franchise recently. We have already done the modern American movies, and we've done the modern Japanese movies, that being Shin Godzilla and -1, and we got -0 coming at the end of the year, so looking forward to that being a thing. Hopefully we get it at the same time so we can do it while it's in theaters.
Oh god,
I hope.
I need it.
I really hope. But but it was finally time to go back and start working through, and that was exciting because, getting to watch Godzilla from 1954, which is a masterpiece, is always a good thing, and I'm looking forward to a lot of the sequels that I know I like. I've seen a lot of them before, not all of them, but a fair amount of them. However, it also meant I'd have to watch Godzilla Raids Again. And I was less excited about that.
You're saying that as if this is a negative, as if this is some sort of dark stain on the franchise.
It's the most boring, forgettable, entry. And, there's arguably worse entries, right? When we get to Son of Godzilla, there's going to be some negativity, don't get me wrong. But that's at least memorable for the bullshit that it pulls. This movie is just devoid of, everything we said about Godzilla, right? Everything we said about the original, about how haunting it is, the atmosphere, the feeling of weight of this being about a country kind of trying to process this tragedy that it actually went through. All of it flushed down the toilet, and no build, no momentum. Things just kind of happen. It's pretty shit. Godzilla Raids Again is one of the worst Godzilla movies. I'm standing by it. How do you feel about it, David?
I love it. I think that this is better than the original in many ways. No, I was almost brought into it. There's to be clear about the plot, to be just very quick little thing here. It's kind of a movie of two halves, and the first half involves we get another monster. The first time that Godzilla fights another monster, this is Anguirus.
Yes.
They jump into that so quick, and it's a quick movie as well. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. They jump into it so quick. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. If we're just going to be doing cool monster action fights and doing that for the whole movie, I'm down with it. I am okay with that for a sequel. And then they throw it away and I've never been so bored. It's just nothing there to draw you into the back half. And like you said, the first one has all of this deep themes and the metaphors and the haunting imagery that's meant to remind you of that. This one has fishing boats. By God, the fishing boats.
And planes, which are there to guide the fishing boats to the fish. Right? Let's not forget that.
They have a couple shots of like planes going down, but in terms of planes in formation, they have two. And they reuse those two all the damn time.
Yeah. You can also, and this is, you know what, of its time, of course. I'm not trying to say this as a criticism, but you can see the string that the plane's been pulled on, like the miniature, as it's going across the sky, like almost every time you see it. And it's like, oh, that's adorable. But the characters just aren't up to what the original one had. And it's not like the original had like amazing characters in and of themselves, but there were very good kind of representations for the debates or the discussions that were happening that were making sense, given what was going on with Godzilla rampaging through Tokyo and the choice of what to do about it, and are we crossing a line by using this weapon, so on and so on. Right? They had all that going on. Here we got like a kind of a half-baked, and that's being generous, romance. And like I think one of the things as well that stuck out to me is that as I'm watching the start of this movie, and like literally Godzilla appears within the first like 5 minutes, and he's just kind of there, right? And I was actually thinking, because this is the thing, this is the third time I've watched this movie, and other than the fact that there was planes and that there was like a sort of love triangle kind of element to it, I didn't remember a single goddamn thing about it. And I remember Anguirus, I suppose. I remember what Anguirus looks like, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't remember anything about it. So I was actually sitting thinking, did they address like how this follows on from the last one? Is it even in canon with the last one? And sure enough, the professor from the first movie like comes in and does just I mean, first of all, he shows a highlight reel of what happened in the first Godzilla, so that we waste 5 minutes watching footage from Godzilla 1.
You say waste. I say that's going to be my scene of the movie.
So, and it does that thing that I really hate where it's just the shots of the movie. Like, it's not like, oh, they got new footage that's like from the perspective of one camera person that's on the scene. No, this is the edited movie they're watching. It's a pet peeve of mine, but
you say it goes on for 5 minutes, and you're right, but I was fully expecting it to be like a 10-minute long thing that was just kept on cutting back to it, with them being like, and then what happened, Professor? Well,
you thought it was going to get the Selenite Deadly Night 2 treatment, where half the movie's flashbacks to the first movie.
Yes, exactly.
No, so he comes in and he does, and he full in says, the end of the first movie. So, well, I said no spoilers. I will talk about the first movie, so spoilers for the first movie here just before I say what I'm about to say. Yeah, it's like, hey, we destroyed it with this oxygen destroyer weapon, but unfortunately the scientist who built it is dead, and we have no way to fight Godzilla. But the thing I did not remember, and something that I am positive is never a thing again after this movie, is the explanation as to why Godzilla's around is that it's a different Godzilla. And I'm pretty sure that for the rest of Godzilla's tenure in the world, unless I'm forgetting something somewhere, but I feel like he's always talked about as Godzilla's not a race of like beings. Godzilla is a character or a monster. He's a specific thing. So that was weird. That threw me off guard.
It's absolutely one of those things where you get an unexpected franchise where the first one kills off a character that they then are like, well, we got to bring back that character, and they don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to sit there and focus on the line, somehow Palpatine is returned. They don't want you to do that, but they have to still put it in. They have to give the slightest little explanation. So whenever anyone talks about like, oh yeah, Godzilla attacks back then, in the movies, they're probably saying it more as like the species rather than the individual creature of Godzilla. But all of us in the audience are like, yeah, we're supposed to believe it's the same creature every single time, except for this one movie, this one time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if I concur with the way they're phrasing it in the later movies. Again, the way they're phrasing it, if my memory serves me correct, it does sound like they're just talking about that is Godzilla, that one. Like, there's no idea of like, oh, there's like a whole litter of them, and like we're seeing one after the other come out after us, kind of thing.
No, I agree, but I'm saying like that's their out. That's the way that they could say like, yeah, Godzilla's attacking. The same way you could say geese are attacking.
I mean, it's a stretch, but I mean, yeah. So it's like, okay, first of all, it feels cheap. Secondly, it feels less special then because it's not Godzilla. It's like Godzilla 2. Godzilla.
I'm trying to get to like an official Godzilla like Wikipedia to say if there is a distinction in the fandom between the two, and I'm not getting anything.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how much of this one is like. I think Anguirus gets some cameos like down the line, but I don't know if anything else in this movie is remotely like considered canon later on. In a lot of ways, it kind of feels like when you get to maybe versus Kong, but certainly Mothra versus Godzilla, it kind of feels like from that point on, there's kind of an established this is what Godzilla is now, and then that continuity kind of sticks for a while, pretty much for the rest of the era, I think, before the gap to the 80s. So.
Yeah.
And again, I'm saying this from memory. If there's any kind of asterisks here or something that I'm forgetting where there is maybe a slight change at some point, forgive me. But yeah, so it is that was weird. Also, all of a sudden, the professor's saying that Godzilla is like super sensitive to light, so we can like lead him somewhere. And I'm like, I don't feel like that was really that established in the first movie. But you're saying as if it was.
Yes, and the fact that he also like. Everyone's like, it's as we feared the most. There's a second Godzilla, and we were supposed to do. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure his entire character arc in the first movie was, do we have the right to wipe out this one-of-a-kind creature? And oh no, I feel so guilty about doing that.
He was sad. Yeah, he was sad that they had to kill Godzilla at the end. So yeah, wild stuff. He has just a cameo for him though. Shimura leaves the movie after that, and thanks to him. Interesting note as well here is that the director here is Motoyoshi Oda, right? And he is not the director of the first movie, that's Ishiro Honda. And Ishiro Honda notably is back for a lot of the movies after this. Like, he directs a lot of this era of Godzilla. Not all of them, but certainly a good chunk of them. But interestingly, on IMDb, he is actually listed there as a second director, but he was not credited in the movie, at least according to my subtitles. So it sounds like maybe he came in to do some stuff to like maybe I don't know if he was fixing some stuff, maybe he was just in the monster scenes because like, hey, you're the only guy who's got experience directing monster scenes or something. I don't know, but
maybe it's like a union thing because they literally showed just part of his movie. Maybe
I never even thought of that. Yeah, maybe it's like a weird technicality where we showed footage that you did, so here's a like but IMDb wouldn't care about that though, would they? Because it's not the movie that had it, it's IMDb that has it.
Yeah, beats me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea as to, because everything I've read is that he didn't have anything to do with this. He was busy with other stuff, but maybe he did pop in. I clicked on IMDb and it says earlier film clips, parentheses, uncredited. So I think IMDb put it on strictly for that.
Yeah. I actually would say he shouldn't be there then, just because you don't credit for like he made a finished movie, it's finished. The fact that they use clips in a future movie doesn't mean anything really.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a weird choice on IMDb's part. But anyway, before we get into any more plot stuff, that was just kind of the setup for the movie. Like, honestly, it's got a weird structure. It kind of like in the middle deflates all tension, and then it doesn't really have a good or interesting way to ramp it back up again. It just kind of all of a sudden more stuff is happening, and because of that, it doesn't really feel like there's like a constant, in the first movie it's this constant struggle where it's like, okay, and the devastation afterwards is brutal, we still have to try and stop him. Here, everyone, I mean, I won't spoil anything, but there's a point in the movie where everyone kind of just sort of like, dusts off their hands and says, oh, job well done, I think that's us, we're good for this. And then when more stuff starts happening, it just kind of feels a little bit aimless at points to me.
No, I feel like the human plot is there. I don't think that it's like, an incomplete plot or anything like that. It's just so uninteresting and so, like, it doesn't have any hooks. There isn't anything that even feels like it's tying in with the idea of Godzilla doing destruction or like the idea. If anything, it seems more tied in with the idea of, oh no, this fishing company might have some bad profits this year because Godzilla's messing with their general pool that they fish from, and I couldn't care less. None of that stuff matters. That's
right. That's one of the things I'm most worried about halfway through the movie is that, if Godzilla and Anguirus fight in these waters, it might ruin where we fish and it's going to upend their business. And that's basically like one of the main concerns.
Godzilla's anti-capitalist, and we can't have that.
Go Godzilla, go. Burn it all down.
Also, I think that maybe this is different if you are actually like speaking the original Japanese. Maybe it's not nearly as confusing, but there are 3, I would say, main characters that we follow in the human plot. 2 of them are in a relationship. One is a female radio operator, one is a pilot. Then there's another pilot who's like a friend. He's in the group, but he is lonely in love. He does not have anybody. And his nickname is Mr. Groom, which is really confusing when the other ones are the ones who are engaged. And I never shook that.
I never had a problem with that, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, honestly, like, so yeah, the 3 characters, the lady is Hidemi, the fiance pilot is Soichi, and then Koji is the other pilot, the friend. Yes. Although I feel like Kobayashi's an easier name to say, that's his last name, but regardless.
It's also Shoichi.
Soichi. Okay, sure. Right. And the irony is that I said his first name because I don't feel as comfortable pronouncing his second name, but
Tsukioka.
See, it sounds easier when you say it like that, I suppose, but yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, they make up the main human element of the movie, and then the lady's dad's the one who owns the company, so he's the one in charge of the fishing operation. So we see him occasionally, but it's those 3 that are really the focal point. But honestly, even they like disappear for like stretches of the movie. It's it's time for monster stuff, so we're just going to not even pay attention to them. They're not even like in a position of danger or anything like that for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, no, there's even a specific shot which I thought my audio was broken because it goes dead silent for like 30 seconds, where Hidemi is looking out at the destruction, and it's way over there.
Yeah,
it's way off in the distance.
Now, to be fair, I actually think that might be the most inspired shot in the whole movie, because I actually don't think we usually see a Godzilla attack from that kind of vantage, like way off in the distance where you can just see like this big cloud of smoke and destruction and debris, and fire way off in the I was like, okay, that's a cool idea for a visual. Obviously, I'd love to see it with maybe some more modern effects to actually make it look more whatever, but I thought it was a cool idea for a shot.
Yeah, no, I like the shot. I'm fine with it. My issue is, and this is something that goes over the rest of the movie, I don't feel like it properly uses its score. That was something we went just off about in the first movie, is how perfect the score was, how it came in at all the right times and really pumped you up and all that. There's so many sequences here where the score either is non-existent or it feels like it's using the wrong song. And I just, it felt so tacked on after the fact to me.
There's a part in particular where there might be a Godzilla coming up to Osaka sort of sequence, right? And he's on his way, and they try to do this thing where it's the tense silence before he might show up. And I get the theory behind that. I actually think if you'd built up to this idea of we're really scared of him coming and we've tried to prepare for it, but there's this tension of waiting for the pin to finally drop. I get what they're going for and having that silent kind of section, but honestly, they didn't build up to it in any satisfying way. Yeah. We only found out about it a minute before. It just isn't that exciting or interesting. It's not got the tension that I think the movie wants to have with it. So, yeah, and that, again, that's one of the examples of the sound being maybe I can see why they went with silence, but it just did not work. So
yeah. That should have been there's the Godzilla main theme that that's tense. That can build up tension. I understand the idea of silence, but even then, that shot that we said looks good of it being a far off distant shot, it's dead silent for a good 30 seconds. And the theory I get, the idea of it's supposed to be this chilling wave has hit as this city is burning because of this Godzilla attack, but it just feels like it's an unfinished clip. It feels like this is something where they forgot to put the music in post.
Yeah, also something this movie does a lot that I really dislike, and it does it with the monsters, but it also does it with the humans, which is especially weird, is it will speed up footage to make things look like they're going faster. And it's one thing when it's the monsters, which I still think looks bad because it's very clearly just fast forwarding, like to make them look like they're moving quick. But
Yes.
there's a point where there's like humans chasing and running around, and that's sped up, and I'm like, it's so obvious this is sped up because it just looks unnatural. It looks like an old silent movie with the you're expecting some goofy music to come in. So that bothered me as well.
I don't know specifically if this is the case, but on the Wikipedia page under special effects, it says some of the effects footage was accidentally shot at a slower speed of 18 frames per second. So that might be a case where they just couldn't get around it.
That makes sense because the reason why silent movies look fast is not because they're supposed to look fast, it's because film back then was shot at 16 frames per second. So when you play it back at 24 frames per second, it's going time and a half. So that actually sounds like that may be why. So it's not even an intentional choice, it's a mistake. That's actually even worse. It's not even like a creative choice they made. They just screwed up and they're stuck with it.
Yep. And specifically for the special effects shots, it seems like. So maybe that's where that was coming in. Yeah,
no, that's fair. Okay, well, that's damning. So, anything else you want to talk about before we get to spoilers? Because, I mean, there's not a ton, honestly. I mean...
The only other thing I want to bring up is, I know this was done in the first movie. I feel like they overdid or didn't do as skillfully the hand puppet version of Godzilla, and by extension Anguirus as well. The first one, it was always questionable. I don't think I could point to a single shot and say specifically, oh, that's them using a hand puppet rather than using the big man in a rubber suit. This one, I feel like it's so obvious. I feel like it's evident in the shots which times is a man in a full suit compared to which ones are hand puppets, and they feel worse because of it. Counterpoint to that, though, I actually think, just because I've seen clips of later fights between kaijus, I really like the fighting style in this because it feels so scrappy. It doesn't feel choreographed at all. It just feels like obviously it's two guys in suits just like literally tackling each other, but it feels like more animalistic because of it. It doesn't feel like it's this planned out, choreographed, like, oh, let's then have Godzilla do this leap into the air and all this stuff. It's just not. They're throwing punches and they're trying to hurt each other.
I get what you're saying. I think it's too scrappy, though, and what I mean by that is that, especially the very first time we see them fight, it just kind of feels like they're tackling each other to the ground the way like two guys would. It doesn't feel right for the, like, I think some of the modern fights with Godzilla and like the American movies, I think those don't feel overly choreographed but still feel like they're big and epic, and it doesn't feel, whereas this just feels like, I don't know, two children on a playground just like diving into each other on the ground, and it feels like, I almost feel like it's too obvious that it's two guys in suits that are having this fight.
No, I agree. I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of more like the mid-70s Godzilla, when I see clips of that stuff of him like sliding in on his tail and leaping up 200 in the air. I mean, I prefer a little bit over that. That's really goofy though, and just right. So either you like that or you don't. But that's like, because at one point, like in the early on fight on the island, right at the start of the movie, there's a point where Godzilla has to get back on his feet, and I swear it just looks like a guy getting up, where he puts his hand on the ground to sort of push himself up, and I'm like, that looks like a human being in a suit. No, that early island fight is absolute trash. Like, I don't know why they thought that was going to work. It just didn't, beginning to end. I think the city fight works a little better, but I also think that it goes on for way too long with them not having any choreography, where it just feels like, well, what are we doing, guys? We spent 10 minutes so far. There's no sense of direction. There's also no sense of building up an idea, like, because we never like get a sequence where, oh, it's the first time they cross paths and like the feud forms, so we understand why they hate each other. No, the first time we stumble into them, it's just kind of, oh no, one attacks the other, they're fighting, and it's never anything more than that. They're just fighting. That's it. There's never any like sense of like even the shallowest depth to it. Yeah. All you get is during the Professor Yamane scene, it's like, oh yeah, they're ancient enemies from all the way back in dinosaur times, and that's why they're fighting. Oh, okay. What about these two specifically? Don't worry about it. Yeah. Which is also something I don't really like about the way they talk about Godzilla here, is this idea that, oh, he was just around with all the other dinosaurs. And I'm like, I don't really think of Godzilla as just been around with all the other dinosaurs. I don't know. No. He's boring. A mutated iguana. That's what Matthew Broderick taught me.
Very good, very good. So yeah, the fights are just kind of whatever. I think what's really notable about the main fight in the city is that you're right, it's very unchoreographed, it's a lot of just scrapping, it goes on too long, it's boring. At least there's some miniatures that they're breaking up, and that looks okay for the most part. But notably, there's like one really nice building that eventually gets destroyed, but you can tell they put way more time into that miniature than any other miniature that was there. And it just kind of felt like, okay, this is going to look good when it breaks, but it's also sticking out so much that it becomes this focal point of the whole scene. It's, I don't know, like even before it became like what they were fighting against, it was just like you could see it sticking out.
I think, I could be wrong, but I believe that's called the Osaka Castle.
Yeah,
so it's like a big major landmark.
Yeah, it looked like an old school Japanese castle. Yeah, so it makes sense that it's a landmark, but it kind of felt like, oh, we're really like, I guess it's no different to like a movie in America, like having like two things fight around the Statue of Liberty and really like focusing it there, just so you've always got this landmark. But
yeah, no, it feels like, I don't know if you're familiar with this, back in like 80s animation, you'd have the background cell plates that are like perfectly static and totally like non-moving, but then there'd always be like one colored panel or something, and you always knew that that's the panel that they're going to like crash through or something during the fight. Like there's something, you're able to just see that slight difference of quality between the two that gives you a hint as to what's going to happen. I feel like it's the same thing here. Like it's standing out so much from the quality, you know something's going to happen there.
Yeah. That's basically what I'm saying. Yeah. So, yeah, it's extremely mediocre at best. That's all I can really say about it. It's 80 minutes or 85 minutes, but it does feel like it drags on despite that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Right. There was a point that we got about like 2/3 of the way through. I'm like, how are you still going? Like, I get you haven't dealt with Godzilla yet, but like, you haven't done anything for a while now. I'm surprised we're still doing things.
Honestly, there's a point about 20 minutes from the end where no one's even concerned about Godzilla, and it's very quickly after that where it becomes a concern. But I'm like, in no way, shape, or form, in a movie of this genre, should you 20 minutes before the end have a sequence where no one cares about what the main threat is supposed to be? Yeah. That is absurd. Yep,
you're right. I almost kind of got the vibe at the beginning of this movie that, because this is set a year later, it is literally in universe set 1 year later, from the original Godzilla attacks, that this was kind of a thing that like over the intervening year, the society and the culture had developed these plans. They had developed these ideas on how to deal with it. Like they have the evacuation stuff nailed down. They have like this plan to distract him with lights and whatever else. And I like that idea. I like the idea that like society would be more prepared for if he ever came back. But the movie itself goes out of its way to show that like they didn't have these plans in place. They were coming up with them as they discovered the second one. And I feel like that's such a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, they could have actually reflected reality a little bit to make it a bit more relevant, a bit more hard-hitting. But hey, so we'll get into the spoilers then for Godzilla Raids Again. Not that there's a ton of them, to be honest, but there's a few things. So we'll get into the business. I mean, basically the movie starts with the two pilots. They're just directing ships where the fish schools are, and that's all they're really doing. And one, Kobayashi, his engine starts to go a bit wonky. He has to make an emergency landing on an island, and he calls for help. So his buddy, right, he comes in. And when he's picking him up, and they're just kind of joking around, and like, your plane went down, I came to save you, ha 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 ha. So it's just, making jokes and whatnot. They just run into Godzilla and Anguirus. There's no build up or anything. They're just there behind some mountains, and they're having a fight. And it's like, okay, that was very anticlimactic. Not that we're at the climax, but you know what I mean. There was no cinnamon ship to get to it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, that's bad. And they sneak away. They go home. The monsters fight into the water, right? They go tumbling into the water, having a tussle. And they come back, and they're looking through like a dinosaur book, and they're like, this is what the other one looked like. And like, aha, Anguirus. It's like, okay, right, we watched a short film of the first movie. watching all the best scenes because they all look better than any of the scenes in this movie. So savor them.
And I look, I understand that like what they probably had actually on hand with all the special effects work that had to go in, they probably just had the movie itself available. And I'm sure they were just like, in the context of the story, oh, this is a film reel, we're not going to have sound to accompany it. But it playing out completely in silence for like 5 straight minutes almost sucked all the life out of it. It still looked good, but like you don't have the roars, you don't have the sounds. It's just like, all right, well, it's kind of boring.
Well, I mean, even if you don't want the sound of the original movie, at least have like the characters watching it have a couple of gasps or something to build some atmosphere here to go along with it. That would be lovely. But and keep in mind, I said this movie's like 80 something minutes long. And we spend 5 minutes watching clips from the first movie. That's a lot of your 85-minute runtime.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything we just said there, that's the first 15 minutes of the movie. Like, we're already only an hour left into this, and all we've seen are 2 men in rubber suits throw themselves into the ocean. Like, that's all we've had.
Yep, and we do start to kind of like set up who the characters are here between like the initial conversations on the radios and then seeing them, and we've already kind of talked about what those characters are and what their relationships are, but I mean, it kind of just it becomes like, oh, like the one idea we maybe have is that if we use flares and lights, we can maybe like lure Godzilla away from land, and it's the best option we've got. So if he does ever come to Osaka, we can maybe deal with it, or anywhere else in Japan. So they do this whole thing where we kind of just like the movie's just kind of playing out. Right, the characters are doing stuff without even really being that concerned with it, and Godzilla might show up, and they're keeping track. The pilots have been looking for him over the water, and they do find him, and they're watching where he's going. They're saying, "Oh, he's heading to this direction, which is not too bad, no big deal." And then very suddenly, it's at one point, and someone says, "Oh, he's changed course. He's actually going to Osaka." And then that leads into, because they basically successfully shoo him away. Right, when I was talking about the whole silent part where it's like, oh, he's coming and the military's ready, but they've got all these firework flare things to like fire off into the sky. It does work. Godzilla turns around and he heads back out into the water. The irony no one could have predicted, though, is that this same tactic attracts Anguirus to the city.
Well, twofold. You're right. Yes. You're correct. The flares themselves bring Anguirus to the city. However, in a completely different set of circumstances, as the city is evacuating, because, okay, in case this doesn't work, we got to keep people safe from Godzilla, they're evacuating some prisoners, which then hijack the truck they are being transported in,
so random,
crash it into a factory, which causes a massive fire, which also then attracts Godzilla back to it.
Yes. So they've attracted Anguirus, and then this fire caused by the convicts, and this is a pretty long sequence of like this prison escape, which the prisoners weren't like handcuffed in the back of the truck. That felt weird to me.
They could never escape a truck with armed guards in it. You put a bunch of prisoners and some guns in the back. What are they going to do?
And the funny thing is that once the fight between the monsters starts, like some of it actually kind of ends up killing the prisoners that are left because they knock over like a water tower or something at one point, and you see like a subway like flood, and the prisoners that are like running down it get just washed away. They're just drowned, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's them dealt with.
Yep. So we get a little bit of a sequence of the military fighting event Godzilla, because I don't think Anguirus has actually shown up yet. And I appreciate the fact that for this movie, it's a smaller budget. They don't have the ability to do like a great number of things here to kick out this fast sequel. They have maybe 2 shots of like missiles being fired off. They have a few shots of tanks firing. They have a couple shots of the flares in the sky, but they use each one at least 3 times in different varying effects. And it takes so much of the runtime for no reason.
Yeah. And my bigger problem with this as well is that, and I get that this doesn't quite work with what the first movie was, but I do think there's a big problem here that they do not do anything to address or build like another like framework around it so it works regardless of this. But neither Godzilla or Anguirus are the good or bad monster. They are just kind of both equally villainous. And then honestly, Anguirus like gets killed halfway through the movie. He's a bit of a chump. Godzilla kills him, bites his neck, and then atomic breaths him, so he like sets him on fire afterwards, so his corpse is lying there burning. And I'm like, oh, we've got like 35 minutes left, and Godzilla just punked out the opposing monster. So clearly this isn't actually... There's a reason why this movie's not called Godzilla vs. Anguirus. One, because we've not gotten to the point in the franchise yet where that became a thing. But also because, yeah, that's not what the movie really focuses on. He's kind of just there so Godzilla's got something else to do and they could make another monster, I guess.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that as long as we're doing monster battles, I agree that there probably should be one that's more good and one that's more bad. I'm okay with it not being that if we have a metaphor, if we have a theme that we're exploring with
that's
this.
That's what I meant when I said like some sort of framework around it, so that it works. Like, and the idea being like, oh, like these two creatures are just having a tiff, but it might kill thousands of people, and like we have to talk about how we're just inconsequential to them. They don't care about us, but you know, they don't do that. And then there's no reason to like root for either one other than just the fact that you know it's Godzilla, so you might like him more, but that's about it.
Unless you're in America, in which case it's Gigantus, and who even cares about either of them?
Like, yeah, there's very little reason to be invested in the fight. Like, there's nothing. So.
No, you're right. And like, even the point where he killed Anguirus, like, it makes it visible. I'm recognizing it's happening. I see it there, but I don't feel a damn thing for it because I don't have a dog in this fight. Like, the only reason I want to see Godzilla win slightly is because his name's the one on the poster.
And also, like, technically, if anything, we should be rooting for Anguirus, because Anguirus, like, we've never actually seen him really, like, going to a city and, like, kill people or anything. Like, he only shows up because he's attracted, and then all he does is fight Godzilla. Like, for all we know, he might have wanted to protect us.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to add even the little bit of me caring about this fight, have a scientist say, this fight, if this fight does end up coming to mainland, we want Anguirus to win because we'd be able to take him out with whatever, or because he would then go back to his home island because he's just defending territory, whatever. Give us some reason to care about the fight from a personality perspective of the monsters, but instead, like, yeah, this version of Godzilla that we have no attachment to, he shows up in Osaka, he beats up Anguirus, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, he leaves.
Yep.
Like, he doesn't come back to the mainland, he's just off on another island, and it's humanity that then goes hunting him down to make sure this doesn't happen again.
The only thing he does to provoke them, I guess, is he sinks a ship that maybe gets close to his territory. That's about it.
I'm looking for the metaphor. I feel like it's dancing around one, but it ain't there.
I don't think so. And, you know, the characters obviously, it's sad Osaka's been destroyed. Oh, but this has nothing compared to the original movies, like Sadness after the big attack. There is nothing equal in that. And it's like, okay, the main thing the characters are sad about is that their company's headquarters has been destroyed. And they're like, don't worry, we have a secondary office in this other city, so we're just going to operate out of there for now. Is everyone cool with that? Yes, we're all happy. We'll make some jokes. And because Kobayashi says he really wants to find a wife, they're all like, Mr. Groom, like, yes, we'll help you. And, like, you know, Hidemi's really nice to him and says, hey, I'll give you some advice as a woman, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a lot of nice, you know, chemistry and whatever, but all this is building up to, for the record, is he starts to imply that he's found someone that he really cares about, but he won't explain who, and he's got it in his little pocketbook that he's got a photo of her, and he wants advice, like what sort of gifts do I buy her, what does a woman want, and Hidemi's trying to give him advice and all the rest of it. And the big reveal when he flies off to go and help sort of like keep track of Godzilla, when the fiancé character like radio's in, is he leaves his book behind, and Hidemi looks inside it, and it's a picture of her. So we're doing love triangle stuff. He's fallen for his best friend's fiancé because she's so damn sweet and nice to him. And, you know, and the weird thing is that nothing really comes of it. There's never any tension because of it. It's just meant to be like sadness because Kobayashi's the one who's going to die. So we're meant to really care about him because, he was in love with the girl. And not only is it really thin, and like by this point it feels that we've not even spent as much time with the characters as we should have, even though I wasn't liking their stories, so it's not like I wanted to in a sense, but in theory we should have spent more time with them so we'd really care about them, and we'd care about the fact that he cares about her. On top of that not being all there, this also feels like a retread of the fact that Serizawa and Godzilla, the original film, had a thing for the main female lead of the movie, right? That was we already did this love triangle thing, and it was fine in that one because it was like, oh, these characters have got a history, it's kind of strained, and there's this sort of tragic sense that he's been obsessed with his work. Whereas here, Kobayashi, no, he's the goofy friend who just wants a wife, and he's not like a mad scientist or anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The Serizawa, you can make all these comparisons between like him and Godzilla. The idea of like the destruction they can both cause, and the idea of like that him having to die alongside of Godzilla to make that work. I would love to see a version of this where they don't make the human plot so nice and neat, where there is actually like a bit of an argument over this girl, and you can make the comparisons of, okay, we have these two kaiju fighting, and we also have these two best friends who are fighting each other, and like make something out of that. No.
There's not a lick of tension. Like, she immediately just goes, "Aw," like she has this look in her face of, "Oh, that poor sweet boy," and then Kobayashi's dead before it's ever a thing that Shoichi has to even think about.
Yeah. And they telegraph it out the ass, because it's like, oh, he finally leaves behind the book and she gets to see who it is, just as he's saying he's going to relieve the other guy from his plane mission to find Godzilla. I wonder what'll happen to him.
Yeah, he basically gets hit with atomic breath and then crashes into a mountain. But that gives everyone the idea of like, oh, we can avalanche Godzilla to death. We can just bomb a bunch of mountaintops and cover them in snow. And I'm really, snow? You think snow is going to... And it works at the end, technically, but like, I don't believe it.
That's a bit to get like, okay, oh yeah, fine. You want to like bury him in an avalanche, so be it. If you want to do it with rocks, I can understand that. But snow, bro, he is a fire-powered lizard. He has atomic reactors in his stomach. What do you mean he's not going to get out of there?
In fact, when it finally happens at the very end of the movie and the last bit of snow falls in his face, he's literally firing his atomic breath, and I'm like, in what world is that just not melting everything that's on him?
Here's my thought process. They made Godzilla 1. They made the mistake of killing Godzilla. I think that they were absolutely leaving themselves the easiest back door to say, nope, Godzilla survived again. Here we go.
Yeah, but like, it's a little bit too far in the other direction, where I don't even like buy that he's down for a minute in this scenario.
Definitely not, yeah.
But they all treat it like it's some smoking gun. Oh, we found it. We found the solution.
This should have been the end of the second act. This is the thing where it's like, we've got a temporary reprieve. How do we use it?
And also, this entire thing that I'm talking about, this idea of like, okay, Kobayashi dies, but because he hits the mountain, some snow falls on Godzilla, it gives them the idea. They immediately try and do it. And like, oh, this is kind of working, but we don't have enough missiles. We have to go back and get a lot more planes and fuel and weapons. And they come back and then just do more of it until it works. Although Godzilla does SWAT, like he slaps like other planes out the sky. He fire breaths some of them. Some of them dodges fire breath, but go into like the mountain with their planes. It's basically so that our main character's the only one left at the end. He's the only pilot still left in the sky by the time the movie's over. And it's like, I cannot express how boring all of this was, and the fact that they basically did it, said, oh, it's working, but we don't have enough supplies, we have to go back and get more, and then they just come out and do it again till it works, is not narratively interesting. There's like, it's not like they encountered a problem, oh, we have to retreat and figure out how to overcome this new problem, this new obstacle. No. This is working, we're just going to pause so we can have more conversations for like 5 minutes, and then we'll come back out, do it again, and then the movie's over. Like, nothing's interesting about that.
If they had the idea of we need to hurry because Godzilla will only stay in this place for so long, I'd be a bit more interested. At least then you have this clock that's ticking in the background. But no, there's not even a hint of that. They're just like, yeah, no. Like, they mention he might make his way back out to the ocean, but they never show that like he's actively working towards that.
Yeah, or they'll say that, okay, all the fighter planes have to go back and like reload effectively. Say that, oh, some of the characters have to stay back and try and keep him on the island, whatever it takes. And then you get this like maybe tense thing playing out as you cut to the others like quickly loading missiles into their slots and whatnot. Yeah. And then, you've got the ticking time clock element, but you've also got characters who are trying to pull off the impossible by keeping them in some location with only planes Because eventually they do try and block his exit by like setting off a bunch of fire barrels in front of his path. But at that point, it's like he could have just like, you're lucky he was still here when he came back. He could have went swimming at any point.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Everything in this movie plays out the way the plot needs it to play out, but it doesn't feel natural at any given point. None of the decisions from Godzilla and Geras, the humans, none of them flow between one another. None of them feel like they make causal sense. It's just, here's what needs to happen so we can get to the end.
Yep. And like I said, when they get news that a boat's been sunk by Godzilla, like they're having a big company like dinner party where everyone's getting drunk and they're cheering and being happy. And like I said, this is 20 minutes before the end of the movie, and then the boss comes in and says, oh, one of our boats has been sunk. They say it's by Godzilla. And then that just immediately pushes into, oh, we're looking for him with the planes. And then that's the ending we've just talked about plays out from there. And that's it. It's honestly, there's not enough drama or friction or sense of structure or momentum to anything that happens in this. It's very much just like, you don't really care about Godzilla fighting Anguirus because they never give you a reason to care about it. That's over with halfway through. We have a very thinly baked human element, but then, like, again, some of the things it does is just like, oh, we'll do this part twice because that'll make it feel like it was really hard, I guess.
I mean, you're right. I'm looking at how long we've been recording, and I think we can't possibly say that that's it. But like,
that's it.
That's
nothing
it.
else.
There's nothing else. You're right. Like, there's nothing else in this movie. If I have to like really get down to the nitty gritty and stuff like that, ignoring the plot elements, I also think that like the guys in the rubber suits. Look, I'm sure people are attached to this version of Godzilla as everyone has their own Godzilla. I think this is the dopiest looking Godzilla to ever hit the screen. Like, and the first time they're showing his face outside of the island fight is as the flares are coming down, and they just hold on his face for a while. And I swear to God, his teeth are angled like outwards, and not in like a menacing way. It feels like he just was born in the deep south and has some dental problems.
I mean, Godzilla's face is going to look goofy for a long time. I'll just settle in for that. Like, the old suit did not have the best face, and they got away with it to a point in the first one with the black and white and the way it was lit and so on. But they just kept using the same suit. So, like, it just looks rougher and rougher as time getting. It's going to be in color starting the next one. So
fair, but I feel like in the last one, it didn't look this dopey. Maybe that's just, maybe I'm just making that up. Maybe it actually did. Maybe they shot around it, but this one exemplified how dopey he looked.
Yeah, better lighting, I think, is a big part of it. And then, I don't know if it was different people in the suit necessarily, or if it's just a case of the director directing them, didn't give them the right directions to not look stupid. Like, because sometimes, the way they were moving around just felt very like man in a suit in a way that doesn't feel like a performance.
No, that's when I think back to the first one, it felt lumbering. It felt like it had scale. Yes, there were some moments where like he moved a little bit quickly, but for the most part, it felt like this is a massive creature. This one, like you said, the scrappy fighting, as much as I appreciate that from like an animal fighting each other point of view, it completely betrays their size because it does feel like, oh, these are like 20-foot tall tops to be able to move this fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and admittedly, like, I don't know if that's something that's going to be solved as we go through the other movies. I think that's something that might be coming in and out depending on each movie's style or how they approached it. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I mean, that is pretty much it. I don't think there's much more to talk about here. Like, this was always going to be a shorter discussion because it's a short movie with honestly not a lot of meat in the bone.
Yeah. I'm disappointed. I would have liked the first time that Godzilla fought against another kaiju to be one of the all-time classics, and it just really isn't.
All right, David, what are you rating Godzilla Raids Again?
Not good. Yeah, I'm so disinterested in this movie. I wanted to give it a fair shake, but almost at the word go, I just knew that it wasn't gonna work out. It doesn't lead off interestingly, and it just fails from there on. So I think I'm gonna give this one 4 out of 10. It doesn't break the halfway point, and it's just below that by a good solid point at least. Yeah,
it's not a good movie. It's bad, and it's I remember when we did Mission Impossible over on Collector's Cut, right, which is our other movie show where we do like franchises and other genres of movies by season. And I said that one of the weird eras in that movie, which is obviously not a bad movie, right? It's obviously a big production, Brian De Palma, a bunch, big name actors in it. But one of the weird things in that movie is that it tells us that two characters are married, but there's not a hint of visual, like, evidence to back up that they care about each other, that they've ever touched each other. There's no chemistry. And I won't say there's no chemistry here per se, but they tell us that two characters are engaged, and there's never even a hint of like an arm around a shoulder or anything to suggest intimacy of any kind. And maybe that's just an era thing, but it's a classic case of telling me something, but everything I'm seeing is flat out denying it.
It's weird because every other character feels more interested in their relationship than they do.
Yes. In fact, she has more chemistry with the other guy that's got a crush on her that's eventually going to die. Like, there's actually more reasons to care about them getting together by the end than her actual fiance. So that's
which would make you think that we would care more about his death because of that, but still no. They managed to fail on all fronts.
So that's a bit of a huge blunder, right? That what you mentioned, on top of all the other things we've already said. I wanted to bring that up because we're talking the ratings rundown segment about the sexual tension not being there, and I think that extends through. I just don't buy that they're even a couple, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I obviously you need to have a human element to these movies, but I think there's a balancing act between you got to figure out how much do people want to see the monsters, and also how well can you flesh out these people in your story? How much are you intending to give them to do?
I think there's two ways to do it possibly correctly. One is to just have the humans always be like talking about the monster stuff. Have them always be just involved in that, and that's all they're doing. They're there to facilitate that plot. Option two, a little bit more difficult, but very satisfying as well, is that the human plot must in thematically some way mirror or enhance what the monsters are doing, or they help each other out because they kind of bounce between the two. Those are the two options, and I think this does neither of those things, so it fails on every front. So I actually think the 4 out of 10 is quite right. Honestly, I think it's a bad movie, not the worst thing you're ever going to see, but it is exceptionally boring, and I will forget 98% of it within a couple of weeks again. So
I wish I could tell you that I'm gonna fight for the idea of like, no, ain't justice for Anguirus. Let that boy shine. But no, I don't care. I can't care.
Yeah. So no. And next time we come back to Godzilla in about a month or so, we'll be doing Godzilla versus King Kong, or actually it's King Kong versus Godzilla. It's that way around. And I'll admit, up front, I remember being kind of lukewarm on that one, right? Not as negative as this, but lukewarm. I am looking forward to the 4th one, because to me, that's when there's a little run of like really fun movies that do some cool stuff and add some cool new monsters and all sorts. So I'm excited to get to that point, but we did unfortunately have to get through Raids Again before we could move on to better pastures. So
darn. Oh well.
Here we are. But next time on the Atomic Cinema Experiment, we will be reviewing a little film from the 70s that I bought on sale a few months ago because it sounded interesting, and that is a movie called The Boys from Brazil. Now, what makes it a science fiction movie? I have no idea.
Oh.
So we're going into this.
One of these where it's going to be like, oh, it actually just has like a phone that's wireless. Ooh.
Hey, in 1978, that was a pretty big deal. Okay.
I agree. Nowadays, I'm going to be like, this is sci-fi? All right, sure.
But no, it seems like it may be something of a gem that people don't talk about as much anymore. I hope. We'll find out.
I will not repeat it because I don't want anyone to be spoiled on this, but I read the very first line of Google's breakdown, and it is insane. It is absolutely the craziest first line I've ever read, so I am so in.
Good. We'll see you for that next week. And then the irony of David saying that he wouldn't do homework episodes or homework movies on Godzilla episodes is that this, our shortest ever episode, maybe could have used a beefy homework segment.
I can just gripe about my memories of Transformers 2 from like 2 decades ago.
No. You have to watch that properly for when you do it on homework. So just you brace yourself for it. But yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. Obviously, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you get bonuses, you get the ratings rundown segment for each episode. We do a monthly show called Extra Reels, me and David, in addition to the 2 regular shows we do every week. Where we review some of the worst movies of all time. Just recently, we did a little number called Tiptoes, starring Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime. So you can... Whoa, what's so funny, David?
Just that role of a lifetime line. I want that on my gravestone.
So yeah, you can check out that and help keep the show coming. Thanks to everyone who already does support the shows. It really does help out. And independent, there's no company behind us or anything like that, so support independent media reviews or whatever. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep watching science fiction and computer at Salsa.